On the show today, Ford confirming their F-150 deliveries will begin. They're on track for Q2. That's great news. Also today, Amazon adding to their Rivian stake. Lucid rolling out their DREAMDRIVE software, their driver assist, let's not call it autonomy if we can. And also Mercedes-Benz beginning to ready themselves for the SUV versions of the EQE and the EQS later this year. Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are watching this around the world. Welcome to EV News Daily on YouTube for Friday, 4th of February. My name is Martin Lee. My job to go through hundreds of stories a day and whittle them down so that you don't have to. Thank you, as always, to everyone that supports this show on Patreon and puts the show on the air every single day. You can check it out. You don't have to, but feel free to have a look. patreon.com/EV News Daily. We'll start with Ford's earnings. Their Q4 2021 earnings call. Net income swung to $12.3 billion in profit from a $2.8 billion loss year on year for the last 3 months of 2020 in comparison, according to a CNBC report today. That did include an $8.2 billion gain on their Rivian investment. After backing that out and other items like taxes, adjusted earnings came to $2 billion in the fourth quarter. And why do we report on that on this podcast? Because, as I like to remind you as much as I can, Ford, GM, the legacy automakers, they are funding their shift to EV with the cash flow from their combustion business. I've been saying this for years. People want to see these companies fail or in some way pay the price, or people love startups, and I get that. But if we want to drive clean green cars, we want to clean up the air for our kids and future generations so they're not getting lung disease and asthma, we need companies like Ford to be making the electric F-150. And they do that by making money from their legacy business. So, as weird as it sounds, please keep buying their old cars because that's funding the shift. Just the speed of the shift that we don't quite know and need to work out. But we don't want these businesses going bust, although some people do, but I've got no time for them. Now, Ford said they expect to spend between $7 and $8 billion, up from $6.2 billion last year, as they execute their turnaround plan. The CEO, Jim Farley, calling it the Ford Plus turnaround plan, as they transition to electric vehicles. That includes things like the new electric transit van and the F-150 pickup. Ford had $36.5 billion in cash and investments at the end of last year, $10.6 billion in its Rivian stake, but that valuation was based on the old Rivian stock price, around $100. Now it's around $60, so, beware of that figure. But the big thing on the call that they did confirm was the F-150 Lightning is on track. That's a key thing because, new EV launches can get delayed. See everything from Tesla. That it's on track for Q2. Really, really important. Now, a Detroit news story that I picked up said that I had a quote from CEO Jim Farley in a statement. He said, "Financial performance is critical. We're proud that customers see how Ford is taking EVs mainstream and have ordered and reserved more than 275,000 all-electric Mustang Mach-E's, F-150 Lightnings and E-Transits, and we're breaking constraints to deliver every one of them." Ford ended last year as the number 2 seller of EVs in the US behind Tesla. A long way behind, obviously a long way ahead. In terms of automaker, Tesla have a 2.5% market share in the US of the auto market. But in terms of EVs, Tesla clearly number 1. And Jim Farley saying that this achievement is an important early step towards eventually being a true EV leader. He said, an important step, it's not like GM saying, hey, we're leading the way, which is clearly nonsense and everyone laughs and then the company don't get taken seriously. Ford, I think, treading the line between talking ambitiously, having that ambition to move forward quickly, which is what we want, but also just not filling the airwaves with BS. I think they hit a nice balance on that. Let me know what you think in the comments below. According to the Detroit News, Ford has said it aims to boost EV manufacturing capacity to at least 600,000 units by next year and is targeting 40%, at least 40% of its lineup to be fully electric by the end of the decade. I still think that is really, really conservative and that the shift will be fast. Look at Norway we talked about yesterday on the podcast. When the shift happens, it happens really quickly when people realize, oh, I've got compelling EVs to buy. Now, the US market doesn't have a lot of compelling EVs to buy. Some good ones, but you look elsewhere, over here in Europe, where the market share is 20% for the year, 30% in December. was EV, it's because we've got a ton of models to buy at loads of price points, and that is happening this year in the US. So those cars are coming. The quote that I found from Jim Farley said, "We really see the ICE business, internal combustion engine business, as a strategic advantage as we go forward. As we manage that and continue to improve the business and generate significant amounts of cash flow, we'll leverage that and invest it in BEVs." It's exactly what I've been saying for years on this podcast. This is what we need, these legacy automakers. I hate the word legacy. It sounds so derogatory. Them to do. This is really, really good news. Jim Farley noting that Ford's plant in Tennessee will produce Ford's second generation of full-size pickups. They come in 2025. He said this, "The velocity of change at Ford is increasing. We're not seeking half measures. Fear of change and risk has never served legacy automakers well in the past couple of decades. We're done with incremental change." Wow, we're done with incremental change. I'll pop a link to Detroit News in the show notes so you can read more. All right, moving on. Amazon disclosing overnight, my time, that it's boosting its stake in Rivian to more than 18%. And also a stake in the self-driving software company Aurora. Now, that stake in Rivian could well be enough to make them Rivian's largest shareholder, according to FactSet. I'll pop a link to Market Watch in the show notes so you can find out more about that story. Been a funny old week for Tesla news. A lot of negative stuff bubbling up, and some of it deserved and some of it not. Tesla are experiencing unexpected phantom braking as they slam on the brakes in response to imagined hazards, is how this Washington Post article begins. Things like oncoming traffic on a two-lane road. The car thinks it's going to crash, and so it just hits the brakes. It's prompted terrified owners to lodge a surge of complaints with the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration over the last 3 months. That's pretty hardcore language from the Washington Post. Not really just kind of factually reporting. It is really, I don't know, flowering the language up a little bit. I'll be careful what I say. The phenomenon is known as phantom braking, and it's been around forever with Tesla vehicles. Like, even the most hardcore Tesla fan is not so delusional that they would admit, yeah, phantom braking's a thing. Like, there's a bridge that I go under every day on my way to work. I'm hovering over the accelerator because it's going to slam on the brakes. Now, Tesla was forced to recall a version of full self-driving in October over false positives to its automatic emergency braking system. Complaints soared after the recall and remain elevated in addition to the safety recall in October, says the Washington Post. The timing of the complaints coincides with a period in which Tesla has stopped using radar sensors in its vehicles. That's kind of a negative article, but there's been loads of them this week. Like this one from TechCrunch. Tesla recalling more than 817,000 cars over faulty seatbelt chimes. And, you know, Tesla fans this week have been really salty over whether this should be called a recall or not. You know, that is the internet doing what the internet does. A lot of, armchair investors or Twitter commentators have something to say about that. Look, I worked in a regulated industry all my life in commercial radio in the UK, whether it's the old Radio Authority or Ofcom. It's a government-regulated industry. And so it should be, like licensing frequencies for mobile phones or the FTC in the US. So, these people have chosen to invest in a company that operates in a regulated industry, and then they whine and bellyache when the regulator gets involved. Rightly or wrongly, I don't know, I'm not going to commentate on that, but automotive is a regulated industry, so at some point the regulator will get involved, and the agencies in different countries have different ways of managing that, but I'm used to it. You haven't got free reign to do what you want and play fast and loose if you want to play in that, in that particular sandpit. And Tesla once again grappling with a large-scale software issue. The Associated Press reporting Tesla has recalled 817,000 cars over a seat belt chime functionality. It's all Model 3s, Model Ys, S's and X's have a software error that prevents the seatbelt chime from sounding on startup if it was interrupted when the seatbelt wasn't fastened when you turned the car off the last time. According to this article in TechCrunch, Tesla will fix it, of course, with an over-the-air update. But should it be called a recall? Lots of people really upset about this. But, hey, them's the rules. Either, I don't know, you could try and change the rules, I guess. But they're the rules. Like, if it's a safety issue and all of a sudden the agency have got involved and NHTSA say, hey, you've got to classify this as a recall. Although you and I know the cars don't go anywhere. They just stay in your driveway and the software gets updated. So I see both sides of it. South Korean testers first discovered the problem in January. On the 6th, Tesla decided a recall was necessary on January 25th. And it is. Tesla are describing it. Even they are. I know fans hate it. The Tesla hardcore hate it being called a recall, but it is officially down in the books as another recall. Hey, let's move on to some good news, right? A Reuters story today pointing out that Tesla have applied for a permit to extend their existing Texas facility for a new cathode building factory. An application submitted on Wednesday says that, simply called Cathode, listed the Colorado River Project LLC as the applicant. Well, that's the name that Tesla's been using throughout this whole process. So easy enough to look for and find. Facility is 1.6 million square feet. Hey, I know that it's sometimes the bad news from whatever people's motivations are writing bad news about Tesla. There's so much good news around that company. I don't know. If I was a Tesla investor, I'd just be feeling pretty secure right now. There's a lot of good news. And yeah, there's some headwinds, but nothing that I would really worry about so much. But look at stories like that. A new cathode factory coming. Think about what that means in the years to come. It means that they're just getting all their ducks in a row with battery manufacturing, where the cars are going to be made. Another piece of the good news jigsaw puzzle. Now, let's do some sales numbers, should we? Go to the US, and Hyundai reporting sales of 989, but you and I are friends, right? So we'll call it 1,000. 1,000 IONIQ 5 sold last month. That makes about 1,100 on the road because some happened before Christmas. IONIQ 5 is on sale in the US, but the short-range version, the 58.2 kilowatt-hour battery, doesn't come until spring. And here in the UK, demand for new cars is significantly lower than pre-pandemic. But there is one bright spot. You know where I'm going with this. You got there already before me. Sales of pure battery electric vehicles were up 130.6% year on year in the month of January. Now we're getting the January numbers coming out. 1 in 5 new car buyers chose a plug-in version. Battery electric registrations up 130% year on year, and plug-in versions, hybrids, 47%. Now we'll talk Lucid next. Beginning the rollout of DREAMDRIVE. The rollout of software version 1.1.4, which contains features for DREAMDRIVE, their advanced driver assistance system. Just don't call it self-driving. This is according to a TESLATRATI story. Lucid is giving the first portion of DREAMDRIVE, along with improvements to access and profiles and nav and things like talking to the Amazon voice assistant. Lucid say, with this update, we're launching new features for DREAMDRIVE, our advanced driver assistance system. This DREAMDRIVE update will occur in 2 parts. We're also enhancing vehicle infotainment system performance for an improved overall user experience. Adaptive cruise control is not active in this version still, though you may notice minor display changes made in preparation for its deployment. So adaptive cruise is one of those things that I think is coming, as far as I know, with every new car rolling off the production line at Lucid, so I'm not sure why it's not in this update, but any super Lucid fans might be able to fill me in. Right, stay tuned, because coming up, Mercedes-Benz is readying SUV versions of their EQE and EQS, and Skoda are readying some smaller versions than the ENIAC. Stick around, those stories are on the way. Now, let's talk about the Nissan Ariya reservations launching in Canada. Nissan Canada now taking reservations for what's called the 2023 Nissan Ariya. Should be out by now, if you ask me. They've got the technology. That's a bit of a delayed launch, that one, but that's nowhere is getting the Ariya yet. But at least Canadians, at least my Canadian viewers and listeners, can order the car. There's 6 versions in Canada, which is more trims than other places. The entry-level version is front-wheel drive, 63 kilowatt-hour battery pack, 215 miles or 346 kilometers. Go for the top of the line, and you get their 4-wheel drive technology, which is stylized E4 Still find it weird. The Platinum Plus version has the dual motor all-wheel drive E4 system with 264 miles or 426 kilometers. You can get a longer range version, which is the 2-wheel drive version without the E4 technology. I'll pop a link to Drive Tesla Canada in the show notes. Now, Mercedes-Benz are readying the EQE and the EQS electric SUVs for a launch later this year, says AUTOCAR magazine. They say that Mercedes-Benz EQ electric car family will grow once again with these 2 models, the 3rd and 4th based on their dedicated platform. EQS SUV will cost from £90,000 in the UK. EQE nearer to 75. Oh, great, I'll have 2 then. A 6th production version of the G-Class will coming in 2024. One senior manager telling Autocar magazine the interior will offer a compelling argument to buy this car. It sets new standards for Mercedes. Wow. I mean, I can't wait to see it. They really are. Anyone that's been anywhere near the Mercedes-Benz EQS, you just can't help but be utterly impressed with what they're doing. Of course, the SUV version will probably have a 108 kilowatt-hour battery, 516 horsepower. EQE has a smaller 90.6 kilowatt-hour pack, we think, rear-wheel drive or four-wheel drive, and that's without talking about AMG or Maybach versions. Now, we'll talk about Skoda, focusing on smaller electric cars, according to the website Automotive Daily, or maybe I should say Skoda, if I'm respecting, I think, how it would be said in its local language. The boss, Thomas Schaefer, confirming the next 3 cars coming from Skoda will be smaller than the ENIAC, and they'll be cheaper city cars. The next priorities will be a smaller sedan-style car, so yeah, they haven't made their version of the VW ID3 or Cupra Born, have they? That'll be coming, you'd say. That replaces also a smaller version, a city car, to replace the Citigo EIV. And last year, the Volkswagen ID Life and Cupra Urban Rebel concept previewed the first cars from their brands using the smaller MEB platform, arriving in 2025, pricing less than $30,000. I'll pop a link to Auto Daily in the show notes so you can read more about that story. Now let's go to China. Who exports the most cars out of China? You might think, well, Tesla Shanghai is always in the news. They must be number 1. No. Chinese car exports rose 100% last year in 2021. 2 million vehicles were exported from China, new energy vehicles accounting for 310,000 of those, respectively, according to the China Association of Automotive Manufacturers. Who was number 1? That would be SAIC Motors, exporting 697,000 vehicles, over 300,000 of those. 360,000 of them were the MG brand from SAIC, the MG ZS EV, coming out with its 2nd edition now here in the UK. The refreshed version, MG5 Estate, also selling pretty well. At the same time, newcomers, NIO, XPeng, Li Auto, all exporting a load of vehicles, over 100,000 combined to the European market here. According to NIO, for instance, they'll be launching in more European markets, 6 more markets this year. XPeng will launch in Sweden, Denmark, and the Netherlands this year. I'll put a link to Car News China in the show notes so you can read more. And finally, I like this story. It made me smile when I watched the video. Fans of Arnie, Arnold Schwarzenegger fans. Watch out on your TV, because the Super Bowl ad is coming. And the iconic star will play ZEUS in a new commercial for BMW, according to the website CBR.com. They say, while the actual teaser doesn't explicitly say it's going to be for BMW i or their electric cars, the lightning-struck logo at the end does suggest it'll have everything to do with their EV plans. And if you have a look in the video description, that I'll pop a link in the show notes. If you follow the link through, it goes to the BMW i website. So yeah, that's what this is all about. The commercial is ZEUS turning up in just a kind of a regular Starbucks-style coffee shop trying to order a coffee. I won't spoil it. Go and watch. It made me smile. I thought it was a good teaser. Super Bowl ad will be shown 14th of February. And it's cool that Arnie is going to be the face of BMW Electric. I love this. Go and have a look at it. Well, thank you so much for watching today. If you want the audio version of this podcast, you can get that as well on all your usual platforms. What's your fave? Apple, Google, Spotify. Maybe a few less people with Spotify recently. But whatever your app is, check out the RSS feed. You can quickly sign up and get me in your ears, as well as a treat for the eyes. And also check out the Patreon page. That's how we put this show on the air every single day. patreon.com/EVNewsDaily. You haven't got to, by the way, but you're more than welcome to have a look and sign up, or not. You get some advantages, the ad-free feed, your name in the show notes, and more as well. Thank you so much for watching. Not around this weekend, got a family weekend, so won't be here doing the show, so it'll be a packed one on Monday, I would have thought. Thanks for watching. See you soon.